A good week to you, Over the Peak people. I think I'll crank this out as just a chatty video because that's the way I think it's going to be. I've opened up OTP this morning and answered some comments on the video of Sunday, and I think I've got to a place where this video is appropriate, because Joe's back and talking about monetary systems, just like we did in the old days, a new monetary system, which is fine. I might as well do it this way. Yeah, so what I said to Joe was, Joe, yes, a new monetary system probably will be necessary, but as a secondary thing, not a primary thing. As in the video of Sunday talking about energy and the fact that we are probably going to have to live our lives with less and less of it, would mean that the old money system, the existing money system, is now dead and defunct. Because as we know, without going into it in any depth at all, that more money is always needed to pay back the old debts, and most of that money comes from the banks, or recently has come from the banks, who have been leveraging up government money. The banks are not going to leverage up that government money when it is widely known that the world is heavily under energy constraints, because then it is known that the probability of paying back that debts is vastly reduced. So the banks aren't going to lend out enough money, so the old money system effectively closes down. It would be an established fact of what we have now as this or these emergency credit crunches. It would be a signing into contract for a lifetime of credit crunch. So the existing money system could not survive that anyway. Right. So we have to then ask people like Joe, who have been working on the new money system ideas for decades, whether their systems would fit in with a new world of less energy for sure, and what that might mean. And what that might mean in brackets is a bit problematical, because with a definite understanding that less energy will be available for use, there is an awful lot of efficiencies that can be put into the system that could even lead to some sort of occasional growth, what we used to call growth in the old days. So it's very hard to have a system such as Joe's, which I believe went along something along the lines of, instead of the banks leveraging up money, there would be an agreement by the government, the makers of money, to put so much more in each year to cover the growth in the economy, 2-3%, whatever it might be. Now, we won't get caught up in those complications. So we agree that a new money system will be needed, but only as a secondary thing, with the primary thing being we now are not always pushing for growth, because the old call for growth was really just to keep the money system going, which was growth, so enough money would be effectively created to pay back the debts incurred. Right, now we go on to the trickier thing, which is, what is wealth? And I've asked this question to Richard this morning, because he's young and bright and can work on this, because I'm not sure. I've been thinking about it now for 4 years, and I have got nowhere with it. Absolutely nowhere. I'm using the word wealth as the question, as part of the question, and that could be part of the problem, because normally if I think of something for 4 years, I've normally got somewhere with it. So wealth might not be the right word, and I might be tripping myself up with that, but I'll tell you what I mean. As I said in the comment to Richard this morning, unfortunately we have to go to kind of Austrian sort of islands sometimes for the thinking about this, and again that might be a problem, and because this is somewhere where the Austrians often trip themselves up by imagining economies as islands, but I can't think that we've got brains big enough to imagine it in an entire global setting. So what we have is a country, a group, that purely cuts each other's hair. That's all they do. I know that's totally impractical, but it's a hypothetical thing. Now, is wealth being created by people just cutting each other's hair? Now, the answer would naturally and easily come as no. But then we go to the second question, is if they just built huts for each other or houses for each other, didn't do any hair cutting at all, just house building, would that be creating wealth for each other? And obviously what I'm talking about, this creating wealth, is that the fundamental basis for an economy? And what is an economy? What is wealth? What is an economy? So the question is, if they built just houses for each other, would that be wealth creation? Would that be an economy? The third one, just to keep us going, vehicles for each other, whatever it would be, cars. If they just built cars for each other, would that be wealth creation? Would that be making an economy? And obviously the cars was just an extension of houses and hair cutting, and we put them all three together and then obviously throw other things in and say, if we cut each other's hair, make each other's houses, build each other cars, is that wealth creation? Is that an economy? That's as close as I've got to working out what wealth creation and an economy is. Because there are people that say, people that cut each other's hair, that's not creating wealth. Creating wealth is something like building a house or building a car. And I don't know at all where to draw any lines between any of that sort of thing. The next natural progression is, if our thinking was a bit in the Austrian school of desert islands, Robinson Crusoe type islands, and these hair cuttings and house buildings and car buildings were being done on desert islands, do we create wealth if we trade a car for fruit from another island? Or if we send a hairdresser across that comes back with fruit? I think somewhere along the line we need, or do we need, some sort of an answer to that, what I think, it appears to me to be an extremely complicated question of what actually is an economy. Because the way we divvy up what we call money at the moment is based on something. Actually, it's just based on the way it turns out. Because would it be that a real wealth creator should, because they're a real wealth creator, be entitled to more of what we call money, and a wealth creator would be entitled only to less money? At the moment, we don't know. We don't know at all. A banker that doesn't build a car gets so much, a cleaner gets so much, a car builder gets so much, and a hairdresser gets so much. There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason for it at all. It's what the market will support. And it's far too confusing for me. So, a quick recap, and I'll call that the end of this Monday video. For the moment, I'm going to stick with Sunday's idea that a new money system will be needed, and this money system will continue to fall down due to the fact that there's not enough cheap energy being pumped into the world economy to pay back the debts that have been taken on. Now, if it's not the energy that's short, we would have to work out exactly what is short at the moment. What is short at the moment that all these debts look like they're not going to be paid back? Everyone's working on the problem of trying to get some sort of system in place to make it not so frightful when those debts aren't going to be paid back, but I don't see much asking the question, well, why aren't those debts being paid back? What is the basis of it? And until further notice, I'm going to go with the fact that there is not enough cheap energy going into the economy like there was when the debts were being taken out. Okay, that established would mean that if that's correct and no new cheap energy sources found, the money system that we have at the moment is going to continue to fall over. Just continually. It's just going to run downhill forever. Or just explode somewhere along the line. I don't know how or when, because nobody does. So we're going to need a new money system. And I think the two things that we need to know for the new money system is, first, why this money system blew up. And if it was energy, that would have to be factored in as the primary thing, as what the new money system was based on, because then we would have a solid understanding that the money system is based on energy. For our modern world, we have energy plus brain power, which makes stuff, which makes for an economy. Sometimes the brain power and energy is simply somebody that knows how to cut hair, cuts hair. That is still energy and brain power. And that somehow makes an economy. But I have a suspicion that we'll also need to answer the question of what is wealth and what is an economy, based on the questions that are asked about hairdressing, car building and house building, before we introduce the next money system, because it's all got to be tied in as part and parcel of a coherent whole. And unfortunately, I think we should be asking and answering those questions before we move to introducing a new money system that might be based on misunderstandings, a bit like the last one was, because it looks like the last one, the Bretton Woods system, which came in after the gold system, the gold standard fell apart, has kind of run on the luck that for the 70 years subsequent to it, cheap energy has generally been available. So it has just about held together. But with that luck running out, the money system also runs out. And we can just say, well, things will be as they are. When they run out, the brain of man and woman will think of a new system. But I think the things are so complicated that some amount of pre-thought would be helpful. And this is what this Monday video is for, to get the little grey cells going in over the peatland, to see if we can put some bricks of the foundation in place. Leave it with you. Bye.